Okay, we're going to go ahead and get this started. So I want to introduce to you guys Mimecast. AppSmart has brought them to a webinar for everyone today to discuss, not only the features, the details, and a lot of the technical aspects of their offering, but additionally go over the evolution of email security. How has it become to be such a critical aspect of what organizations and our customers are layering on to their office productivity suites. We've brought an unbelievable resource here for you today. We're looking forward to this call. We can jump to the next slide. I want to introduce you guys to Jack Leblanc. He's an unbelievable resource that I've worked with for quite some time now at Mimecast. He is the Inside Account Manager. And he is an individual that you might be working with as you engage and involve Mimecast in some of your opportunities. You may have seen me on a couple webinars. My name is Nick Collins. I'm the National Channel Manager for AppSmart in the West. And again, today we're going to be going over Mimecast, the evolution of email security. I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is an interactive and an open platform for you to put any of your questions, any of your comments in the Q&A or the chat icons down at the bottom. We're going to be doing a survey at the end of this call, so we really appreciate your feedback. And Jack, why don't you go ahead and take it from here, sir?
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Nick. Really happy to be here. Thank you to everyone for taking the time today to attend. Hope you're all keeping healthy and enjoying your summers, of course. And a big thanks to our trusted partner, AppSmart, and Nick and the team over there for having the session devoted to us today. We think it's going to be really productive and look forward to giving you guys a look into Mimecast. So, the plan today really is, like Nick said, to give you a high-level breakdown of where email security is today, where it's come from, and really just what role Mimecast is playing and how we're playing it in really reducing the risk that's associated with the modern email threat landscape. And you can go on to the next slide. So high level, what we're going to cover today really is around the migration, the mass migration rather, that's taking place going to Office 365, taking email in that direction, and some of the challenges and risks associated with that. I'm going to give you what I hope is a really good breakdown of what exactly these modern email threats look like. And as I said, how Mimecast has been a reliable partner in keeping those threats out of your environment. Partnering with some of the smallest of SMBs and globally to some really large global enterprises that we partner with. And lastly, gonna wrap up the session today talking about the importance of awareness training, how vital it is to tackle the issue of human error, and we'll see a little feature from these characters on the right here. You're probably saying, who the heck are they? So we will stay tuned for that. And go to the next slide, please. So again, very high level, this is the transition that we've seen in recent years for email environments, right? Quite simply, how am I bringing email to my organization, to my company? Traditionally, it was an email exchange. It was an appliance, and for some still is, that sits on the premises of your organization, and that's kind of how you bring email internally. And what's taking place now for organizations of all sizes is they're moving to the cloud. They're moving to Office 365. And as many of you probably know, Office 365 is a great tool. It does a lot. It is a true office productivity and collaboration tool. And of course, email is really at the center of that, right? That email communication is so central to the productivity of your workforce. But what we're going to touch on and continuing on here is that there's considerable benefit to moving to Office 365. It's more cost effective. It requires a lot less legwork for IT as far as the maintenance associated with an on-prem device like an Exchange. But while being cost effective, this move to Office 365 does represent an increase in risk, and we'll get into that more. Next slide, please.
And Jack, hey, if I could jump in really quickly, you had an illustration there previously from on-prem to the cloud. Yeah. A lot of our advisors, a lot of our partners are going to be doing those migrations for their customers with AppSmart. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that that is the trigger event. That is the cue of when you might introduce or ask the appropriate question of what are you doing for email security? Have you considered Mimecast? Just want to make sure that that's clear there for everybody, that that's the event. That's what you're going to be doing with individuals like myself at AppSmart, and this is the sales opportunity and the benefit for the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Nick. It really is the most commonplace, the most common point in time for an organization where Mimecast is brought into the conversation. So well said there. So important to call out here at the beginning that 94% of all cyber attacks start with an email. Plain and simple. It is the #1 threat vector that attackers utilize today. And what we're seeing with the large scale adoption of Office 365 is a constant and increasing attention from threat actors, from cyber attackers on that platform because of how exponentially the growth and the usage of it, is continuing on. So because they have such a high focus, it's frankly become a gold mine, and they've developed methods and particular types of attacks that they know can bypass Office 365 security. So Office 365, while it's a great tool, it leaves the door open and leaves you at risk when it comes to the modern email threat landscape. So what this graph really is showing is you got the eggs in the basket there along that axis. As more people are putting all their eggs in the basket of Microsoft, meaning not just going to Microsoft for email hosting and OneDrive and all that other good stuff, they're relying on Microsoft solely for the security aspect. So as you put all your eggs in that basket, the targeting and the attention from malicious actors increases exponentially. And this is precisely where mine comes in.
And speaking of eggs all in one basket, I think it's well known that the majority of the market is within the Microsoft cloud, right, or the Microsoft environment. And if that's the largest majority of the market, yet it's the reliable vector of where cyber attacks are occurring, is this something that you would say that from your point of view, customers need advice, they need guidance on the fact that just having Microsoft is not enough to protect your organization's infrastructure and data?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. And that's frankly why we exist today, right? I think Microsoft does a great job of marketing themselves as this one-stop shop. But the challenge is, take that extra moment or cycle and consider about the security aspect. Where is the risk truly with the move to Office 365? And that's where you see the shortcomings of the solution. So next slide. So we say this is where Mimecast comes in, Office 365 shortcomings. So for those who don't know, who is Mimecast? So we've been around since 2003 with close to 40,000 customers globally. Quickly touching on that 98% customer retention rate. What that really shows is that when an organization puts Mimecast in place, it's very unlikely to see them want that removed. So that close to 100% retention rate really is a fantastic number for the software as a service industry. And it just is a testament to the reliability and the stickiness of the solution that shows its value almost immediately after implementing. Just continuing on, we analyze and process a tremendous amount of email traffic, billions of emails every day. So, what this means is when we're analyzing such a high volume of traffic, we're able to adjust our defenses and thus the defense of our customers based on the traffic that we're seeing. It is a true community defense approach. An example might be, Mimecast security operations, noticing a new type of URL, a link threat in Australia one day. We're able to adjust Mimecast, adjust those defenses to have our customers protected from that particular attack by the time the sun comes up in the US. So a real advantage there. And a common question I get is, what makes Mimecast different? There's a ton of email security providers, whether it be Microsoft or otherwise. It's this part on the left that you're seeing, the 100% cloud native cybersecurity platform. That's the main differentiator from everyone. Some of the biggest names in the industry used to be appliances, and they've taken that appliance on-prem approach and essentially copied what they're doing to put it in a cloud environment. And in that way, having a hard time keeping up with how fast the threats are changing. That's the difference with Mimecast, frankly. And it's the fact that we have the advantage of always having been cloud. It's a bet that our founders took very early on, and I'd say safe to say that paid off, because it really is the direction that IT has taken. And next slide. So here's a somewhat technical at just how we work, right? You know, where does Mimecast sit in the environment if I were to implement this? Very, very simply, we're an MX redirect, a secure email gateway. So all email coming inbound to an organization that has Mimecast in place, all those messages will be scanned internally within Mimecast first, and then passed down, as you can see, to whatever email servers in use, Office 365, Exchange, G Suite. And we also provide outbound inspection. So it's not just about scanning the mail that's coming in, it's about scanning the mail that's going out. So two major things there: ensuring nothing malicious is leaving the organization, and B, making sure that nothing that you want to make sure is leaving is leaving. Social security numbers, tax documents, other in-house things that you want to be sure. Mimecast has the DLP and content examination capability to not just check things on the way in, but check them on the way out. And just to double tap on that, to remind, there's nothing to install on premises with Mimecast. It's 100% software-based cloud service that's extremely, extremely easy to implement. And next slide. So this really gets at the crux of what is the service that we're providing? What are we protecting you from? Traditionally, you know, all we really needed to worry about with email filtration was, you know, antivirus, anti-spam, and, you know, that was pretty much it. The Nortons and the McAfees of the world were taking care of that. But our targeted threat protection really is the most vital component of the service, because of the, you know, severity and frequency of these targeted phishing attacks that we're seeing, you know, all too often. So first one to touch on, URL protection. The URL attack, the malicious URL, this is the classic don't click the link type of attack. It's an attempt to get the user to, you know, click a link and either have that link execute some sort of malicious code onto the organization, onto the mailbox, the user, or get the user to actually enter information into that link so that the, you know, the malicious actor can then take action with that information later on. One of the most typical types of attack there is going to be called credential harvesting. So we'll show an example of this later on, but essentially this is where the attacker aims to get something, some type of log information, whether it be your email, your banking information, or other types of login credentials. And again, you know, Mimecast is able to identify that at the gateway and make sure that those types of attacks never reach the user. Attachment protection, really straightforward. Another commonplace attack where, you know, a malicious actor is going to put a seemingly, you know, non-problematic attachment like a resume or a purchase order in an email, and simply opening that will either, you know, execute some type of malicious code like the URL, or, you know, clicking a link within the attachment. So, you know, a lot of devastating breaches associated with opening malicious attachments. And again, Mimecast has the, you know, capability to scan that quick. If it's malicious, the end user will never see it. So we're going to touch more on this in a couple slides, but impersonation protection, also known as BEC, business email compromise, really one of the most common types of attacks because of how difficult they are to detect. Why? Why are they so difficult to detect? And that's simple. There's no code, there's no link, there's no attachment for us to scan and say, yes, we can identify that to be bad. These attacks typically are plain text with nothing but words on them that's trying to get the user to take some sort of action. So it's simply someone representing themselves as a trusted sender, like a CFO. probably one of the most common types of users to be impersonated. And what do the emails say? A variety of things. They're seeking to gain information or trigger some type of action, on the part of the person they're targeting. Gift card requests. Hey, I need you to go out and get some gift cards. Hey, I need you to execute this wire transfer to one of our vendors. And those are probably two of the biggest ones. This also seems to be where Microsoft has the most problems detecting and keeping those away from users.
And Jack, I want to jump in here really quickly and kind of build a bigger picture concept for everybody on the call. And I'll age myself a bit and go back to high school when viruses and DDoS attacks and spam attacks, they used to go around like there was a rumor, and you'd hear about it in terms of, was your friend hacked? Was your mom or dad, or was your mom or dad's colleague hacked by a specific virus attack that was going around? Well, what you're seeing and what Jack is alluding to is that Mimecast is a global presence. Any attack, any URL attachment, impersonation, or internal email attack that's occurring on a global perspective, they are proactively and in a targeted fashion protecting your customers and your organizations from that specific spam attack, getting into your email and taking advantage of what is the biggest vulnerability: the end user, the employee who isn't educated or as intelligent as the hacker is, who is trying to trick them. And they're very, very intelligent. They're very, very adept at exactly how, as Jack said, to get through the Microsoft or Google environment to the end user. So it's critical to have a layered on solution like this that filters everything and searches for everything and targets it before it gets to that vulnerable end user.
Yep, nail on the head there. And just to kind of round out those four main types of attacks that we have protection for, is internal email protect. And without getting too much into the technical weeds, to put this very simply, not all email attacks are coming from external and coming internal. They're not all coming from a third party, coming from another domain, coming into your organizations. Some are spread internally, frankly. So, Mimecast understands that, and the result is not just providing defense for messages coming in, but scanning and providing defense for messages going internally, from employee to employee, from user to user, east to west traffic. So that kind of rounds out the targeted threat protection. So let's go to the next slide. So as you've probably seen on LinkedIn, elsewhere, the number of BEC impersonation scams are growing exponentially. This is high, if not the highest item on the FBI's radar when it comes to tackling the issue of cybercrime, right? It's being perpetrated internally, domestically, and of course, really notoriously by nation states that we commonly associate with, with malicious cyber actors, whether it be Russia, North Korea, the list goes on. So again, just a quick, enter into the Google News, BEC, business email compromise, can really open your eyes as to the devastating impacts that these types of attacks have had on organizations in the last number of years. As you can see on that bottom note, FBI reporting that BE scam is accounting for about half of the cybercrime losses in 2019, which is pretty remarkable. So let's get into some examples right after a short video here. And so basically, this is what this video is going to show: is the anatomy of impersonation attack, how Mimecast is helping you stay protected. So you can go ahead.
Mimecast Targeted Threat Protection. Impersonation Protect prevents the latest malware-less social engineering-based email attacks, often called CEO fraud, impersonation, whaling, or business email compromise, to trick employees into making wire transfers or handing over sensitive data directly to the cyber criminals. Here's how it works. As the email passes through the Mimecast Secure Email Gateway, Impersonation Protect identifies combinations of key indicators across various character sets, such as the use of keywords, similar domains, or spoofing of key executives to determine if the email is suspicious. This includes a targeted threat dictionary managed by Mimecast, to which custom terms can be added by an organization's administrator. If the email fails these tests and is determined to be suspicious, the service will block, quarantine, or flag the email, providing complete administrative control depending on your organization's preferences. Mimecast, making email safer for business.
Great, thank you. Go to the next slide. So we've compiled some examples, some of the types of phishing attacks we're talking about today. And interestingly enough, these were actually compiled really organically through Mimecast and AppSmart, types of attacks we've seen over the years. So first one that was brought to the table by AppSmart. Nick, could you kind of touch on what's going on here with your environment?
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is actually an impersonation, example, and this is actually, coming from the owner of AppSmart. And so if you consider how vulnerable an end user is to getting an email from the owner of their company, their CFO, their CEO, it's largely critical to make sure that you have a notification that at least alerts the end user to pay certain attention to some specific characteristics like was mentioned on the video.
Yeah, exactly. And, just think about the kind of the psychology of what's at play here with this email. It doesn't say, send me $1 million wire transfer. It's looking to quickly capture the user to say, the owner of AppSmart just emailed me and I need to reply with my cell phone number. You can certainly understand how a lower level employee, someone newer, that may not be looking at this email with enough of a critique and a critical eye, you're there, reply with that cell phone number and it's kind of over. So definitely an interesting example. And going to move on to the next slide. This really just reinforces the notion that anyone in every industry is targeted. So on my end here, we grabbed an email from Mimecast. This was about 5 years ago. Someone representing themselves as Peter Campbell, the CFO of Mimecast at the time. Again, just a really good example of the type of thing that an impersonation attacker is looking for. Find the wire instructions. They want almost 50 grand. I need to process this code to ProServe and confirm when completed. And then, you've got the CFO thrown in that bit there at the end. This ought to have been done yesterday. So attempting to, again, play onto the, psychology and emotions of the person receiving that email, trying to act with a sense of urgency. So get a little bit of a game show aspect going here. This email, seemingly normal, coming from Peter Campbell. Nick, take a look at the email. Can you identify what's giving this away? I know you may not have seen this one before, so pop quiz.
I haven't. Looks like you're going to try and embarrass me on the call. Okay. From what I can tell, the only thing that I could see would be there's no signature on the email on behalf of Peter.
Good point.
So it might be, a lack of structure that's typical. I don't really see anything else that would stand out to me.
All right, yeah, so we'll zoom in a little further here. If you could go to the next slide. So Nick may have just, there we go. Steve had it. So it looks like they did a pretty standard, domain spoof, which is where they take something that looks like your domain. It was good enough to fool Nick. We have an R and an N instead of an M. So mimecast.com is obviously our domain, but I mean, looking at that, especially at a first glance, anyone can fall for that, frankly. So that's going to be one of the primary checks that Mimecast is gonna do. So no worries, Nick. Mimecast in place. We're gonna make sure that you're not even faced with this dilemma. You're not even gonna get this email in the first place. So again, finding that similarity, that's a huge red flag for Mimecast. And that's a primary reason why we would keep a message, send it to the administrator for review, and in all likelihood, they're going to say, yeah, good thing you didn't send this one down. Anything else there, Nick? Oh, still on mute. There you go.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I think what's the most important aspect here is that you're alerting end users of things that they might not have been aware of. And I know that you're going to get into it a little bit later of how Mimecast appeals to that and brings them up to speed. But as simple as this may seem, this is the open door. This is what Mimecast prevents organizations from experiencing significant cyber attacks, ransomware, malware. This is the start of the peripheral of security that they do need.
Absolutely. Yep, and you can go to the next slide, please. So this is looking at a URL-based attack. This one, like we discussed earlier, is an attacker that has sent a page that looks an awful lot like chase.com. Your account has been compromised. So I've immediately grabbed the end user's attention with that, whether they're saying this is bad or whether they're saying, okay, this seems pretty suspicious. So in the event that a Mimecast user was faced with this email, and for some reason it was able to make it past the gateway, let's just go ahead and pretend that the user is going to say, oh yeah, well, I do use Chase, and it seems there's an issue with my credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and click that chase.com link. And if you could proceed to the next slide. This is what's coming next. It's totally up to you how frequently you want this message to reach your end users. But basically what it is it's presenting a teaching moment. And it's Mimecast saying, okay, let's take a step back and consider what this email, what this link, where it's sending us. So again, I clicked it. This link is going to pop up. I'm able to look at two key indicators here. The link clicked. Looks like it's some variety of bgmtechnology.com.au. Doesn't really seem like something from Chase should be coming from an Australian website, but I need to figure this out. Email address, again, not sure why it's coming from just some random.com email address. But I'm having a busy day. I need to move along. I think there's an issue with my card. It's safe. Get out of here, Mimecast. Let's advance one more. So if that link truly is not safe, and I, as the user, think that it is, Mimecast still will not allow me to proceed to that. So learning moment, making sure that no harm done, but this is a harmful link, be a little bit more critical on these types of emails going forward. And next slide. So to veer slightly off the security topic for just a moment, I want everyone on the call, to be aware of Mimecast's email archiving capability. In the regulatory environment we're in today, there's a lot of different reasons why you might need this. Biggest one is going to be around email retention. A lot of organizations, whether it be a year, 7 years, perpetually need to hold on to emails for a certain length of time. And for whatever reason, it may be related to public records requests or internal audits, litigations. They need to not only hold on to emails for a long time, but be able to search for them fast and efficiently and find the emails that they're looking for. And it may not always be such a compliance, litigation related thing too. Maybe you just want your users to be able to find old emails fast, find attachments, find old contacts and old email strings. Mimecast gives you the ability to do that. Finding old emails fast, 7-second search SLA really starts to become some functionality that you take for granted. And kind of staying with the theme of how we complement Microsoft, the performance of Microsoft's end user search and e-discovery is very spotty. It sometimes just doesn't work. It sometimes doesn't give complete results. And especially when you're running it from the admin side, responding to requests, public records requests, litigation, it can't be done quickly. And that's kind of how Mimecast steps in and creates a much more efficient, streamlined workflow for all those sort of archiving and search related tasks.
So Jack, I think this is actually critical. A lot of the individuals on the phone, we're all very familiar with telco. And I think that it would be fair to say that a lot of individuals are familiar with selling redundancy, selling backup to an internet circuit, selling SD-WAN to optimize those two circuits. Look at that from a sense of software now. When you look at a critical business application or a business or an industry like finance or like oil and gas or let's just say trading, right? Or the legal industry. And you look at a 7-second search LA, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone back into my archives and it's taken multiple minutes, or it's just never shown up, and I had to go to multiple compartments in order to find that thread that I needed for a piece of information that was critical at that time. 7-second return for an RTO, for a request time objective, is incredible. And the efficiency that that creates on top of the security, this is an open door opportunity to engage with new customers or your current customers. This is a way to enter in with a question on what's your RTO for your email archiving. If you haven't worked with Mimecast, it might be something to consider if accessing your archives in a considerable amount of time is an issue. You know, so use these little points as ways to engage new customers and get that open door opportunity to dive into their software stack. This is just one of those chances for you, and this is a subject matter that's perfect for that solution.
Absolutely. Yeah, great wrap up on the archiving piece. So we'll go on to the next slide. So at this point, you know, we've covered two of our main services: security, email archiving, and rounding it out with the third is Mimecast email continuity capabilities. The question is, what happens when Office 365 goes down? Office 365 will reliably have a certain amount and hours, if not days at sometimes, amount of downtime. And, you know, when that happens, what does an affected organization do? They just stop working? In a lot of cases, yeah, they might. And productivity is going to really take a significant hit. You know, Mimecast itself, we had some issues with our email environment earlier this spring, and we had continuity enabled. So it was really interesting to see the way that we relied on our own service for an extended period of time like that. So whether it's Office 365 that goes down, an Exchange server, Mimecast has the ability to step in, bypass Microsoft, and keep emails flowing. The end user at that point will be sending emails inbound, outbound, and be able to really continue on doing business as if there is no event going on. And just to continue on with that, well, what happens when stopping work isn't an option? Users go onto other options. They use their Gmails, they use Dropbox, they use, you know, other unsecured third-party applications that are not a part of your work compliant sanctioned stack, which just brings in a whole nother set of complexities and security risks. So yes, keeping email running is about continuity and is about productivity, but it's about security as well.
So, Jack, I know this is more about the backup of your email cloud solution and your office productivity tool, and Mimecast assists so that if there's downtime, there isn't essentially downtime.
Right.
Again, for everyone on the phone, if you haven't been selling office productivity, or if you have and you're curious of how to create value in front of customers who are already using, you know, Microsoft or using G Suite, these are little points, and these are, you know, the foundational questions that you can ask, where that customer will look to you and thank you for asking that question, and they'll inquire of, tell me a little bit more. So again, these are opportunities, these are key features with Mimecast specifically that will allow us to get into different opportunities that you might not have previously, to where you can start selling SaaS and we can start selling into the office productivity solutions within your customer base or with new logos. Great points, Jack. Appreciate that. And this is again, these are the multiple functions and dynamic features with Mimecast that if you can bring them up in the right way to your customers, it'll open a whole new door for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And next slide, please. So in summary, you know, we help you fix and solve the problems that Office 365 can't fix themselves. Experiencing target attacks? Mimecast Secure Email Gateway is there to make sure those attacks stay within Mimecast, not reaching your end user and giving them the opportunity to make a mistake. Having issues, finding old emails and paying a lot for storage of old emails, Mimecast can give you an industry-leading search speed and a really predictably priced way to hang on to those emails really as long as you want. And as we just discussed, Office 365 goes down. How are you going to keep email flowing? How are you going to provide that redundancy, that backup, so that your workforce stays on sanctioned applications and stays secure and productive? So next slide. So we're going to keep moving along here. We're going to share these after the fact, but these discovery questions really coincide with everything we've talked about at this point today. These are the questions to ask to figure out the current state, to figure out what's going on internally, and figure out where and what aspects of Mimecast can come in and make a big difference. So to finish up, we're going to just talk about security awareness training and how we tackle the really big issue of human error. It's the number one problem, if you can go to the next slide. The number one issue with traditional security awareness training tools is that end users are unengaged. They're unenthusiastic about the training. So with this survey here, we show a high number of respondents unenthusiastic about their training. And because of that, they don't know the prime indicators of a malicious email. Next slide. So in a bit of an exaggeration, this is your average user taking a security training. It's likely he's going through a boring quarterly or annual task that employees need to carry out. They're just being asked to check a box, and they see it as this compliance-focused thing. I need to just get done and get compliance off my back, show that they've done it, and move on with their day. That is the core of the issue of why traditional security awareness is not effective. So next slide.
Hey Jack, we have a couple questions, and just to this slide in itself, how many times I would hilariously say how many times you get a quick email in a fast-paced day that might ask you to forward it on to an individual, and how quickly do you just pass by and take care of the action? So it's perfect that Mimecast prevents that. Wanted to go over a couple quick live questions. I think that they're relative. Blake Olson asked a great question. If an email scanned by Mimecast compromises a customer, does Mimecast make the customer whole?
If an email scanned by Mimecast compromises a customer, does Mimecast make the customer whole? So I think I know what the question means, and that is to say, if an individual user gets compromised and starts spreading malicious traffic internally, Mimecast can identify that compromise has taken place and can remediate the situation. So yes, as a whole, yes, we can identify the compromise, immediately remove any malicious email that has resulted from that compromise, automatically alerting the administrator. Exactly. Is that kind of the question as you understood it, Nick?
Well, I'm going to further it a little bit, and I'm going to challenge you for everyone on the call. How about financially? If they were to scan a ransomware email and the organization was held financially liable on ransomware, does Mimecast, if that passed through your barriers, what action would you, if any, take?
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak to that. I can say that we don't, take liability in that regard, but I will say for the amount of ransomware that is email borne, Mimecast is going to be the most efficient and have the highest efficacy in making sure that does not stay out. We're certainly not just selling licenses. We're here to be a partner. But no, I can't really speak to kind of what we can do in the aftermath. I will say that if ransomware does take hold and, for example, your email environment is locked out, is encrypted, we do have the capability of fully restoring that and making you whole infrastructure-wise and email-wise, but we don't, again, take uncapped liability for the event that a breach like that does take place.
Yep, another reason to have an email server backup. Another quick question from Blake. Any compliance issues with having a third-party scan for any of the required mandates out there like HIPAA, PCI?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of organizations that require HIPAA and PCI compliance. So there's no issues. We actually strengthen your case to sort of have those compliance certifications. Healthcare really is our number one vertical. We work with, thousands and thousands of healthcare organizations and some of the largest healthcare organizations in the United States. So no, that's a great question. We actually are a sort of a feather in your cap as you strive for those compliances.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump through the slide.
Cool. So again, just kind of wrapping up, an unengaged user is going to lead to a dismissive attitude toward security. They're not engaged and they're not learning what these programs are trying to teach. They're not changing their behavior in the way that they should. The attitude, when you're dismissive, it becomes, it's on my company, it's on my leadership, it's on my C-suite to deal with cybersecurity. It's not my problem. When in actuality, as a part of that security program, you need to understand that the user does have a role to play, and we all do, and we all need to be aware of the threats and engaged in those, in those moments and when the program is trying to teach us what we need to do to ensure security. So we're going to move on to the next slide. And this will be introducing two of our favorite Mimecast employees, Human Error and Sound Judgment. Enjoy.
Security breaches are massively expensive, and most of them are due to me. We had an incident last week.
How much damage did I do? Sorry, this is all on me.
How do we take this guy on?
Good luck trying.
The Mimecast training modules are quick and funny, and they present important concepts in a way that's relatable and easy to understand. That's how we reduce the impact of human error in the workplace. And who doesn't want that?
Wait, I don't want that.
So that was just a kind of a quick teaser trailer for our training modules and our training program, something that we're happy to share more information about. But at a high level, your users will receive monthly, short, quick hit videos that are engaging, they're funny, and they represent the true dilemmas, the security dilemmas that our users face on a day-to-day basis. And when you're engaged, you're excited for that 5 minutes of funny security training a month, it shows. And that's really what you're seeing here. This is the benefits of having Mimecast email security and awareness training internally. This was data that was pulled out from all of our customers, all 40,000, close to it, globally. That top line that you see is the amount of unsafe clicks that users will make when they do not have our awareness training solution coupled with Mimecast. So it's that Chase Bank email where Mimecast stopped me. That's an unsafe click. The much smaller, flatter line at the bottom is Mimecast customers, Mimecast email customers that also use awareness training. So this is just a testament to the story of coupling awareness training with really high efficacy email security and how it shows through. Your users learn, and they learn to be more critical, not make clicks that they shouldn't be making. And again, just a kind of a really powerful testament of bringing all those solutions together and creating a more aware, resilient workforce. And that's pretty much all I have for you.
Hey, Jack.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, I got a quick question for you. What percentage of the market do you think has onboarded awareness training? Let's just say, they've bought Mimecast. What percentage of the market, and I'm asking this so that everyone on the call understands the opportunity to provide this solution to their customers. Is it being sold in the market rapidly, or are people unaware, and do they need this?
Yeah, so I'd say the latter. We're very much in, I would say, the early stages of security awareness training in general. Any company that doesn't have it right now knows that they need it. And what we're doing is taking the number one issue of engagement. Don't just get a security awareness training and check the box. Get a security awareness training that your users will have some stake in, understand, pay attention to, and have a takeaway. So as far as, maybe what percentage of Mimecast customers use awareness training, I'd say we're only 2 years into having this product as a part of Mimecast. So it's probably somewhere less than half. And it continues to be one of the #1 solutions that's opening doors for Mimecast opportunities. When they see these quick, punchy videos and how much their users are going to love it, along with all the great bells and whistles you need, fish testing, risk scoring, identifying the riskiest users. It's both a very simple tool for the end user and quite technical and complex when it comes to a security administrator.
Yeah, and I think, again, I want to point out to everyone on the call that this is a great opportunity to open doors with new customers. What are you doing for security awareness training?
Very easy question.
You might get a response like, what do you mean by that? And that is exactly where a meeting is set. And that is exactly the same time where you go through their entire software stack and you learn so much more about their infrastructure, how you can help build a revenue opportunity in that account. And it all starts from a Mimecast question in a market where people may not be aware of what they need. This is why we're having this webinar. And I think that, again, another lead-in opportunity through Mimecast for everyone on the call. So I appreciate that, Jack. Did you have anything else before we jumped off?
No, that about wraps it up for me.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for jumping on the call. Again, Jack, thank you for walking us through all of the features,
Absolutely.
the details, and the technical aspects and the offering of Mimecast. Really appreciate it. Did a great job. Any question and answers, any chat or any other inquiries that you guys have, feel free to, if you have my direct email, reach out to me. Let me know what you're curious about. We're happy to get on a call with Jack, with the Mimecast team, run demos for your customers, make sure that they're aware of what is out there in the market. We're going to be doing a survey right after the call is over. So if you don't mind, fill out a couple quick questions for us. Let us know what you thought of the webinar. Other than that, thank you again for jumping on. We appreciate your attendance. We're going to be uploading this webinar, all of the decks, to our Learning Campus. So if you have access to the Learning Campus, we'll have this uploaded in a few days, if not by next week, and everything will be referenceable. Again, thanks for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it, Nick.